Hey, HTDA, and welcome to an update on Dyson Sphere Program. It's an exciting update with quite a few new features as well as balancing changes, so let's jump into it. Okay, so let's start with the basics. If you want to access the Sandbox Mode, all you need to do is make a new game, mark the Sandbox Mode, and you will be able to jump into a game where you have everything at your fingertips. Now, make sure that you are not doing this to farm metadata because you won't be able to. The multiplier on that is now set to 0 if you enable the Sandbox Mode. If you want to farm metadata, what you can actually do now is reduce the resource multiplier, and as you can see, the metadata contribution goes up. If you put it all the way down, at minimal, you will get a warning. This is very difficult. This is the setting for the new extreme hard mode, and it is quite extreme. You will only get 10% of your starting resources on your starting planet, so the multiplier is set to 10% of what it normally is. On other planets, it's actually set to 7%. So 7% of what normally would be on that planet. And on top of that, the distance multiplier. So normally the further you go out in your system, the more resources you find on those planets. That is still the case. But even that multiplier has been reduced. So basically you will need to make sure you are getting around and getting by with a minimum of resources to build your stuff. If that is what you're looking for, then extreme hard mode is for you. Okay, so let's talk about Sandbox Mode for a moment. Don't go away just yet, by the way. There are a couple of other things coming up that will actually affect your normal playthrough as well, even if you're already in the one. So make sure to stay to the end, but let's talk about the really big feature first, and that's the new Sandbox Mode. Sandbox Mode is kind of like what it says on the tin. Normally you would have a lower amount of power at the start of the game, but if you enable the infinite button over here, you now have infinite power, so you don't have to worry about carrying around coal or cutting down trees and stuff like that. That's just one of the basic things. Movement itself is also no longer an issue. If you open up your world map and you simply select wherever on the planet you want to go, so let's say I want to hop back to my starting place, just hold your right mouse button and you are now back where you were at the beginning of the game. You can teleport around your planet, but you can also teleport around your universe. Just select a planet, right click on the planet, and you are right where you want to be. Okay, well, having infinite power and infinite movement is really fun, but it doesn't actually help you to build stuff. So we can solve that by going to the technology tree and using the one-click unlock. This will unlock automatically all the technologies in the game instantly, so you don't have to go through them one by one. And you also get all the upgrades unlocked, at least most of them. For some reason the sorter cargo stacking and the veins utilization is not unlocked. There's probably a reason for that I'm not aware of, but anyway, you have pretty much everything unlocked when it comes to Icarus, as well as the stuff you might want to build. Now, really cool, so you can pretty much start building with whatever you want on your planet from the get-go. Now, actually being able to build stuff is really fun, but there's actually a lot more tools in the game. So if you click on the Sandbox tool right now, you can spawn veins. So let's say you want some iron veins up, and now you have iron veins as much as you want, and that also holds, of course, for all the other types of resources, as well as the raw resources, rare resources, I would say, including things like oil, but even unipolar magnets. You can just spawn them wherever you want and play around with that. If you want to get really creative, you can even be your own Bob Ross and paint a little tree and bush over here and over there, and just place some vegetation down. We have all the normal trees and stones that are common to your starting planet, but if you want to get exotic, you can also plant some exotic mushrooms or whatever that normally would not spawn on this planet, but you can spawn them now wherever you want. Infinite items are a very interesting feature as well. So the traffic monitor is now actually set to produce items in Sandbox Mode. I'll give you a pretty nice example in a moment, but rounding up the tools, we also have the Sandbox tool over here that gives you a quick build option that basically allows you to instantly place down huge blueprints. It does give a warning when you scale this up. This would actually build an entire world at once, or at least try to do that. I don't recommend setting it so high as this. That will probably just crash your game. But play around with this, and it makes it a lot easier to work with large blueprints without having to go manually place everything down, which normally would take minutes or even tens of minutes with very large blueprints. But right now you can just place it down and you will have everything set and ready to go. Now, of course, you can also remove veins and vegetation with this button. So if you don't like whatever you place down, you can just remove it as well. So you can really scape your entire world in the way that you want it. Okay, so what is so exciting about the new traffic monitors included in the Sandbox mode? Basically, you can use them to completely replace mining, and that's really handy if you just want to build something, test it out, tweak it, without having to actually do a lot of mining. You can just open a Sandbox game, unlock everything, place down the blueprint, and basically just start working with the traffic monitors as your input. Now, the way that works is you click the Generate Item button. It's then set by default at the first click to generate. Let's say I want iron ore over here. You set the target flow to whatever you want in terms of input, and now it starts instantly generating as much iron ore as I just told it to. Now, on the other hand, we have this outgoing belt over here where we can set this to actually consume items. You first click the generate item, then you put this to the other side, and then it starts consuming. Then I need to tell it what to consume. In this case, that will be the iron ingots. And again, I need to tell it how much to consume. I just put it to max. And now I have a completely operational facility over here that I can tweak with, test it. Of course, this is a very basic example, but you kind of get the point. Now, on top of that, there are a couple of quality of life changes. So, for example, I did the same thing over here, where I just generate some antimatter and I have a artificial star. But placing a lot of power on your planet can be really annoying. Well, just enable this, and now you have the power of 100 artificial stars in one. So basically, this should be able to basically supply everything on your planet with power if it needs to, or just build a handful of these, but you should be done with that. I mean, 7.2 gigawatts is a lot of power. Similarly, you can go to your Dyson Sphere and set it to quick build. That will basically mean it is going to be generated instantly. As you can see, we already had a default solar cell path set. That was just the standard one it comes with. It is now instantly generating that, and if I want my cells to live forever, I can just enable eternal solar cells, and I actually get the milestone for that now, and do that. If I just want to remove all the solar cells, I can do that. If I want to remove stuff, basically you can play with this and it built instant Dyson spheres. You can design very beautiful spheres, just have them build it, check it out if that's actually what you wanted, without having to sit through hours in your actual game in order to do that. Now, on top of that, I'm not going to show you that right now, but you can actually launch your solar cells from your inventory. You can set your EM rail ejectors to a maximum speed in such a way that you basically create instant swarms of solar cells, stuff like that. All of that is really sped up in case you want. It is just going to the appropriate building, hitting the button, and then it will do whatever you want it to do. Now, last but not least, in order to actually build all of this stuff, you're going to need buildings, and crafting all those buildings would be extremely annoying. So what you can do now is a couple of things. You can enable this free item button over here, and then you can simply say, hey, I want to, for example, remove my entire inventory if it's getting cluttered. So just with one push of the button, you have an empty inventory. But hey, now I want to start building a large facility again. Get common items will basically give you all the buildings in the game, or at least a couple of them. It will give you some belts, it will give you some sorters, etc. So this is a really convenient button to just generate some of the most convenient items. You can generate items manually as well, but to be honest, I think with just this one button, you should probably already have everything you want. Then last but not least, if you are going to use foundations, then you will now actually have an option to enable infinite soil pile. So no more collecting dirt in order to reshape your planet. You can just put it to infinite over here, and you can fill in your entire ocean if that's what you want to do. Now, what else has been added to the game? Well, first of all, we are going to get some new planet types. Well, we already have them, and this is one of them. So this is the Pandora Swamp type of planet, and along with it, there are a few new other types that have been added to the game. Most of them will only show up if you actually make a new game, but this is purely aesthetic, so there's nothing really exciting that you're missing, but if you were making a new game, you might see some sights you have not seen before. Well, on top of that, there are a few more things that will actually impact your gameplay. So first of all, if you now go to your technology screen, you will find there a new technology. It is after X-ray cracking, so that's the one where you can make some hydrogen from more hydrogen. Similarly, we now also have a recipe that will allow you to make more oil from oil, hydrogen, and coal. Why did we need that? I have no idea. So let me know in the comments if I'm missing something, because I can't remember a single time I have actually wanted to make more oil out of oil, especially if the ingredient was going to be hydrogen. But I don't know, I might be missing something. At least it's a way to get rid of some of your hydrogen in the early game, I suppose, when you have too much of it. But anyway, if I'm missing something and you have some brilliant ideas why this is actually going to be very useful, let me know. And then last but not least, we have some balancing changes, and these will actually affect your gameplay. So first of all, we have the particle collider, which is now cheaper to make. It only costs 25 supermagnetic rings now. Everything else has been unchanged. Not entirely sure why that balance needed to be changed, but anyway, you get cheaper colliders now. The other two changes are a little bit more impactful. So the two recipes that a lot of people have been using very intensively, myself included, are the Casimir Crystal Rare recipe, where you make optical grating crystals into Casimir crystals. These now cost more optical grating crystals to make. The recipe itself, in terms of output, has not changed. The duration of the recipe has not changed, but you will need more rare resources in order to make a single Casimir crystal. Same holds for the rare recipe for the nanotubes. It will now cost you more of those rare resources to make it. So make sure that you rebalance your builds if you're currently in a playthrough and you are already making use of these recipes. Your builds will need to change, and basically it comes down to requiring more input for the same output. So you will probably need to either put more stuff on your belts in order to make sure your buildings actually get enough, or you might actually have to either stack up your belts in order to make sure that happens, or simply remove some of the buildings because they will no longer be fully supplied if they're down the end of a belt. And then finally, there were some optimization changes being made to solar cells, so they should now require less memory. I really hope you guys enjoyed this quick update on the things changing in the latest patch. Remember, it is already live, so you can jump into your game, start your sandbox mode, or start fixing your builds with your rare recipes. I really hope you enjoyed this one, guys. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content on updates on Dyson Sphere, and I will be doing a new playthrough as soon as the major update on combat comes out, so please make sure you join in for that, and I will catch you in the next one.